A successful African-American business owner disguises himself as a typical shopper at one of his high-end retail locations. The store's manager, unaware of his identity, makes offensive racial remarks toward him. The following day, the manager is stunned when called to the corporate headquarters and sees the same man again. Nathaniel Carter stood at the corner of Fifth Avenue, seamlessly blending into the bustling New York City crowd. The fall breeze carried a slight chill, gently lifting the edge of his casual dark jacket. Nathaniel pulled his baseball cap lower, concealing his features as he watched people flow past the sleek glass front of his luxury boutique. The tall building featured clean lines, with sophistication inscribed in gold lettering above the entrance. Customers entered and exited, bags swinging, the store's elegant interior visible through its large windows. Taking a deep breath, Nathaniel stepped forward, easing open the heavy glass door. A soft chime announced his arrival. Inside, the boutique was a realm of polished marble floors, plush velvet seating, and carefully curated displays of premium fashion and jewelry. The scent of expensive cologne lingered, mingling with soft jazz melodies playing in the background. Nathaniel had created this space to be welcoming, a place where opulence met comfort, but today he felt like an outsider. Dressed in dark jeans, sneakers, and a plain dark jacket, he looked unlike the store's usual patrons. That was deliberate. He wanted to observe how customers were treated without the influence of his title or status. He'd done this at other locations, but today was different. He was in his hometown, checking on a store he deeply valued. Nathaniel wandered toward a display case filled with designer timepieces, admiring their craftsmanship and intricate details. He knew them well, having helped select the collections. Today, though, he was just a shopper. From the corner of his eye, he saw Edward Marshall, the store's franchise manager, standing near the counter. Edward, in his mid-50s, had thinning gray hair and wore a sharp suit that seemed slightly tight. He was speaking to a woman in a designer dress, his voice low and polite, a rehearsed smile on his face. As Nathaniel approached the watch display, Edward's gaze flicked toward him. The smile faded, replaced by a slight frown. Nathaniel pretended not to notice, picking up a sleek silver watch with a leather strap, turning it over to feel its weight. "Excuse me," Nathaniel said lightly, "could you tell me about this timepiece?" Edward approached slowly, his steps deliberate, eyeing Nathaniel's casual attire and cap. His expression was guarded, almost dismissive. "That's a limited edition model," Edward said, his voice clipped and formal. "Very exclusive. It might not be what you're looking for." Nathaniel kept his smile. "Why's that?" Edward's eyes narrowed slightly. "It's a high-end piece, quite expensive. Maybe you'd prefer something more affordable." Nathaniel felt a spark of irritation, though he knew Edward didn't recognize him. The assumption in Edward's words was clear. Nathaniel pressed further. "I like high-end items," he replied calmly. "What makes this one special?" Edward sighed, as if forced to perform a tedious task. "It's crafted by one of Switzerland's finest watchmakers. The materials are top-tier, the craftsmanship unmatched. It's a collector's item, limited to a very small number worldwide." Nathaniel nodded thoughtfully, still holding the watch. "Sounds impressive. How much is it?" Edward hesitated, scanning Nathaniel's face as if searching for signs of his ability to pay. "It's priced at $122,000, he said reluctantly, adding, "But as I mentioned, we have other options that might suit your budget better." Nathaniel's smile remained, but frustration simmered inside. He gently placed the watch back in its case. And if I wanted to buy this one? Edward's eyes flashed with annoyance. We'd need proof of payment first. We don't let just anyone walk off with our finest pieces. Nathaniel's expression stayed steady, but his patience was thinning. So, it's store policy to question a customer's ability to pay before a sale? Edward's tone grew defensive. It's not about questioning. It's about safeguarding our brand's integrity and image. We can't let just anyone handle our merchandise. Nathaniel held Edward's gaze for a moment, then nodded slightly. I understand, he said quietly, turning from the display. As he walked toward the exit, he felt Edward's eyes on his back, almost hearing the man's silent judgments. Stepping into the city's cool air, Nathaniel's mind raced with the encounter. He had come to observe his store's operations without his usual presence, and what he'd seen was disheartening. Anger brewed beneath his calm exterior as he blended back into the crowd. This visit wasn't over, he knew action was needed. Nathaniel paused outside the boutique, gathering his thoughts. The experience had sparked anger within him. Taking a deep breath, he re-entered, determined to see if this was an isolated incident or a pattern. The chime rang again as he stepped inside. This time, he didn't linger on the surroundings but headed straight to where Edward stood, now checking his phone near the counter. Edward's eyes narrowed when he saw Nathaniel approaching, the earlier condescension unmistakable. Nathaniel realized it wasn't a one-off. Taking another steady breath, he moved to a display of designer coats, running his fingers over the fine fabric. He lifted a dark, elegantly tailored coat, perfect for autumn, holding it up to inspect it. Excuse me, Nathaniel said, his voice calm and courteous, could you tell me about this coat? Edward glanced up from his phone, his eyes shifting from the coat to Nathaniel's face. He hesitated, then pocketed his phone and approached, the forced smile returning. That's a premium piece, Edward said, his tone as curt as before. Italian wool, handcrafted, from our latest collection. Very exclusive. Nathaniel nodded, studying the coat. It's nice. How much is it? Edward's smile tightened. It's $2,500, he said, enunciating slowly, as if explaining to a child. These are meant for our high-end clients. We don't usually let just anyone handle this merchandise. Nathaniel raised an eyebrow but kept his tone neutral. So, you keep some items out of reach for regular customers? Edward's expression hardened, his polite facade slipping. Our regular clients know what they can afford, he said sharply. We cater to a specific clientele here, people who appreciate quality and can pay for it. Nathaniel carefully returned the coat to its hanger, his frustration mounting but his demeanor calm. I appreciate quality, he said evenly, and I think I might be interested in this coat. Edward's eyes betrayed irritation and disbelief. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Look, he said, condescension creeping in, I don't mean to offend, but perhaps you should look at our more affordable options. There's no point wasting time on items out of your range. Nathaniel's patience was nearly gone. He met Edward's gaze, his voice firm but controlled. You don't know what my range is, he replied, and assuming you do based on how I look is not good business practice. Edward's face tightened, reassessing Nathaniel. We have an image to maintain, he said slowly, as if explaining rules to a novice. We can't just have anyone handling our most valuable items. It's about preserving the brand. Nathaniel's anger flared in his eyes. Preserving the brand, he echoed, by judging people on looks? That's not how you foster loyalty or respect. Edward's arms crossed, his posture stiffening. Our clients value exclusivity. They don't want to see just anyone touching everything. It's about the experience, the environment, that's what sets us apart. Nathaniel exhaled slowly, his gaze unwavering. And you think treating potential customers with disrespect is part of that experience? Edward shrugged, a smug expression crossing his face. I know my clients better than you. It's my job to protect the store's integrity. Nathaniel didn't reply immediately. He scanned the boutique, noting the displays, the curated merchandise, and other customers now noticing their tension. Then he faced Edward. Thank you for your time, he said coolly. I've seen all I need. Without waiting for a response, Nathaniel turned and headed for the exit. The chime rang softly as he stepped back into the city's cool air. He didn't linger, striding briskly down the street, his mind racing. The experience was intolerable, not just as a businessman but as someone who valued respect. He'd seen the reality of his store's operations, and it fell short. Nathaniel's jaw tightened as he recalled Edward's dismissive tone and attitude. This wasn't about a coat or watch, it was about the principles his company was built on, principles this store was failing to uphold. As he walked, his anger transformed into resolve. He knew what must be done. Today, he'd been judged as just another customer, dismissed based on his appearance. Tomorrow, he would return, not as Nathaniel the shopper, but as Nathaniel the owner, ready to enact change. Nathaniel spent the night reflecting on the interactions, each of Edward's words fueling his determination. By morning, his frustration had solidified into a clear plan. He would revisit the boutique and investigate further to see if Edward's behavior extended beyond his own experience. If Edward treated him this way, how did he treat others? Nathaniel was resolute in finding out. Dressed again in casual attire, jeans, sneakers, and the same dark jacket, Nathaniel re-entered the luxury boutique. The chime above the door announced his arrival. The store was quieter than the previous day, with fewer patrons browsing. Nathaniel headed straight to the jewelry section, his gaze settling on a glass case showcasing an array of diamond bracelets and necklaces, each gleaming under soft lighting, their price tags discreetly hidden. As Nathaniel examined an intricate bracelet, he noticed Edward nearby, speaking with a young woman whose face showed concern. It was Emily Harper, the assistant manager, nodding as Edward spoke, her hands nervously fidgeting with a clipboard. Nathaniel strained to catch fragments of their conversation. I don't care if he's a potential customer, Edward's voice was low but firm. We have standards to maintain. Keep an eye on him. Emily glanced in Nathaniel's direction, her face a mix of worry and empathy. She briefly met his gaze before looking away. Nathaniel pretended not to notice, continuing to examine the jewelry. He now knew Edward was instructing his staff to be wary of him. This realization cemented Nathaniel's decision to confront Edward again, but this time he would test how far Edward's prejudice extended. Nathaniel selected a diamond necklace, gesturing for a sales associate to assist him. A young woman approached, her expression polite but cautious. Good morning, Nathaniel said with a warm smile. Could you tell me about this necklace? The associate glanced over her shoulder at Edward, who was now watching closely. She hesitated, then turned back to Nathaniel. This is one of our signature pieces, she said softly. It's crafted with the finest diamonds, set in platinum. It's priced at $15,000. Nathaniel nodded appreciatively. It's beautiful, he said. Could I take a closer look? Before the associate could respond, Edward approached, his expression stern. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, directing his question to the associate rather than Nathaniel. "No problem," Nathaniel said calmly, stepping in. "I was just asking about this necklace. I'd like to inspect it further." Edward's eyes flashed with irritation. "I don't think that's necessary," he said, his voice laced with condescension. "As I mentioned before, we have other pieces that might be more suitable for you." Nathaniel kept his gaze steady, refusing to be dismissed. "I'm interested in this one," he said firmly. "I'd like to see how it looks." Edward crossed his arms, his patience clearly waning. "Our policy is to reserve pieces like this for customers who are serious about purchasing. I can't have just anyone trying out our most valuable items." Nathaniel's calm facade slipped, frustration surfacing. "And what makes you think I'm not serious?" Edward looked Nathaniel up and down, his sneer unmistakable. "Experience," he said coldly. "I know who can afford what. It's my job to protect this store's integrity and its brand. We have a reputation to uphold." Nathaniel felt his temper rise but kept his voice steady. "And you uphold that reputation by judging people based on their appearance? By refusing service because you think they don't belong?" Edward's expression remained unchanged. "It's not personal, it's business. Our customers expect a certain level of exclusivity. I can't afford to waste time on people who aren't serious buyers." Nathaniel took a step closer, lowering his voice. "And how many serious buyers have you turned away because you made assumptions? How many people have you disrespected because you decided they didn't fit your idea of a customer?" Edward's jaw tightened. "I run this store the way I see fit," he said sharply. "And frankly, I don't have to explain myself to you." Nathaniel held Edward's gaze, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. "You may not have to explain yourself to me," he said quietly, "but you will have to answer to someone. This kind of treatment isn't just bad for business, it's wrong." Edward's eyes flickered with uncertainty for a moment before hardening again. "If you don't like how things are done here, you're welcome to leave," he said dismissively. "There are plenty of other stores that might suit your tastes." Nathaniel took a deep breath, stepping back. He glanced at Emily, who was watching the exchange with a worried expression. "Thank you for your time," Nathaniel said to Edward, his voice cold. "I'll be sure to let the right people know how you run your store." With that, Nathaniel turned and walked out, the door's chime echoing louder than before as he stepped onto the bustling street. He knew what he had to do next. He'd seen enough to understand that Edward's behavior wasn't an isolated incident, it was a mindset that needed addressing. As Nathaniel walked away, his resolve solidified. He had hoped for a different outcome, but now he was certain change was necessary, and it would start at the top. Nathaniel spent the night preparing for what needed to be done. The next morning, he didn't return to the boutique. Instead, he headed to his company's headquarters, a sleek glass building in Midtown Manhattan. Inside, the atmosphere was one of quiet efficiency, phones ringing softly, employees moving purposefully through the halls. Nathaniel entered the executive conference room, a spacious area with a long, polished table and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He took a seat at the head of the table, his expression calm but resolute. Nathaniel had arranged for Edward Marshall to meet him here, under the pretense of discussing store performance and future goals, ensuring Edward would show up. His assistant, Rachel, stood by the door, awaiting Edward's arrival. Soon, Edward entered, his usual air of confidence cloaking him like a mantle. He wore a sharp suit, his face showing curiosity mixed with slight annoyance, clearly expecting a routine check-in, perhaps even praise for his work at the store. Edward's steps faltered when he saw Nathaniel at the head of the table. His eyes widened in surprise, glancing at Rachel, then back to Nathaniel, struggling to place him. Confusion flashed across his face. Nathaniel remained silent, letting Edward absorb the scene, then spoke, his voice calm and authoritative. "Take a seat, Edward," Nathaniel said, gesturing to a chair across the table. Edward hesitated before pulling out a chair and sitting down. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," he said cautiously. "I wasn't expecting to see you here. Is everything all right?" Nathaniel leaned forward slightly, his gaze steady. "No, Edward, everything is not all right. I've come to discuss serious concerns about your behavior at the store." Edward's eyes flickered with confusion, then with an attempt at confidence. "Concerns about what?" "I've been running the store as I always have. Sales are up, the brand image is strong. If there's a problem, I'd be happy to address it." Nathaniel's expression remained unchanged. "Sales numbers aren't the issue, Edward. The issue is how you treat people. I visited your store yesterday. You didn't recognize me because I came as a regular customer, dressed casually." Realization dawned on Edward's face, followed by a flash of panic. His mouth opened, then closed, as he struggled for a response. Nathaniel continued before he could speak. "I saw firsthand how you judged me based on my appearance," Nathaniel said, his voice calm but firm. "You made assumptions, you were dismissive, and you refused to provide the same level of service you would for someone you deemed a worthy customer. This isn't just about how you treated me, it's about how you likely treat others, anyone who doesn't fit your narrow view of who deserves respect." Edward swallowed hard, his face reddening. "Mr. Carter, I didn't know it was you. If I had known..." Nathaniel cut him off. "That's exactly the problem. You shouldn't have to know who someone is to treat them with basic human decency. This company stands for inclusivity and respect. We built our brand on the idea that luxury isn't just about exclusivity but about making people feel valued. You've turned my store into the opposite of what it's meant to be." Edward shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "I was just trying to maintain the brand's image, to keep it exclusive and high-end. Our customers expect a certain atmosphere, a certain clientele." Nathaniel's voice hardened. "Our customers expect quality products and respectful service, regardless of what they look like or how they dress. They deserve to feel welcome, not judged. Your behavior undermines everything this brand represents." Edward's face was a mask of desperation now. "Mr. Carter, please, I can change. I understand now. I'll do better. I'll implement training, whatever you need." Nathaniel shook his head slowly. "It's too late for that, Edward. Your attitude isn't something that can be fixed with training. It's a fundamental problem with how you see people, and it's not something I can allow to continue. Effective immediately, I'm terminating your franchise agreement. You're no longer responsible for that store." Edward's eyes widened in shock. "You can't be serious. I've been with this company for years. I've helped build that store's reputation. You can't just cut me off like this." Nathaniel stood, his gaze unwavering. "Yes, I can, and I will. Your behavior reflects on the entire company, and I won't let one person's prejudices tarnish what we've built. Security will escort you out. You'll receive instructions on the termination process and what happens next." Edward stood, his face a mix of anger and disbelief. "You're making a huge mistake. I'm the best manager this company has. You'll regret this." Nathaniel remained calm, his voice steady. "No, Edward, the mistake was allowing you to stay in a position where you could harm the company's values. I won't regret ensuring that my stores are run by people who understand what this brand truly stands for." Edward stared at Nathaniel for a moment, then turned abruptly and stormed out, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. Nathaniel watched him leave, a sense of resolution settling over him. It wasn't just about firing Edward. It was about protecting the company's integrity and ensuring every customer felt valued and respected. Nathaniel turned to Rachel, who had observed the exchange silently. "Make sure Edward is escorted out and that the transition process begins immediately," he said. Rachel nodded. "Yes, Mr. Carter. I'll handle it." Nathaniel walked to the window, gazing out over the city. He had taken a necessary step today, but there was more work to do, more changes to ensure every store upheld the values he believed in. For now, though, Nathaniel felt a sense of calm. The message was clear: respect and integrity would always come first. Nathaniel stood at the large windows of his office, looking out over New York City's bustling streets below. The meeting with Edward had gone as expected, but the sense of finality brought no satisfaction. Nathaniel knew firing Edward was necessary, but it was only part of a larger issue. As he turned from the window, his phone buzzed with a message from Emily Harper, the assistant manager at the store. She had agreed to meet him at headquarters to discuss the store's future. Nathaniel walked down the hallway to the conference room where Emily was waiting. As he entered, Emily stood quickly, looking nervous. Her brown hair was pulled into a neat bun, and she wore a simple blouse and skirt, her eyes reflecting a mix of anxiety and hope. Nathaniel offered a reassuring smile. "Thank you for coming, Emily," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "I know it's been a stressful couple of days." Emily nodded, her hands clasping and unclasping in her lap. "Yes, Mr. Carter, it has been. I heard about what happened with Edward. The staff is talking, they're worried about what's going to happen to the store." Nathaniel sat across from her. "I understand. That's why I wanted to talk to you. Edward's departure was necessary for the company's health, but I know it leaves uncertainty. I want to ensure the store is in good hands going forward." Emily nodded, her expression serious. "I appreciate that, Mr. Carter. I've always tried to do my best at the store, but it's been challenging. Edward had his way of doing things, and it didn't always align with what I thought was right." Nathaniel watched her carefully. "I saw how you handled yourself in the store, Emily. You stayed professional, even when the situation was tense. That's why I'd like to offer you the role of interim manager. You know the staff, you know the store, and I believe you understand what this brand stands for." Emily's eyes widened, surprise and relief flooding her face. "Interim manager," she repeated. "Mr. Carter, I don't know what to say. I never expected this." Nathaniel smiled. "Say you'll accept the role and that you'll help me ensure the store reflects the values we believe in. I need someone I can trust to lead, someone who won't make the same mistakes Edward did." Emily's hands trembled slightly as she nodded. "Yes, Mr. Carter, I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes to make the store what it should be. I've always believed in treating every customer with respect, no matter who they are." Nathaniel's expression softened. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear. You'll have my full support, and we'll work together to make the necessary changes. I want you to feel empowered to address any issues, to ensure every customer feels welcome and valued." Emily looked visibly relieved. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I've always cared about the store and the people who work there. I just never felt like I had the authority to make a difference." Nathaniel nodded. "You do now. I'll ensure you have the resources you need. We'll start with retraining for all staff, focusing on customer service and inclusion. I want every person who walks into that store to feel like they belong, whether they're buying a $10,000 watch or just browsing." Emily's confidence grew as they spoke. "I can do that. I know the staff will respond well, too. They just need to know their efforts are supported and that they're working in a positive environment." Nathaniel leaned back in his chair, feeling a sense of satisfaction he hadn't felt in a while. "Good. I'll be checking in regularly, but I trust you to handle things on the ground. We're in this together, Emily. The success of the store isn't just about profits, it's about building a community of respect and inclusivity." Emily smiled, the tension easing from her shoulders. "I won't let you down, Mr. Carter. I'll make sure the store represents the best of what your brand stands for." Nathaniel stood, offering his hand. "I know you will. Thank you for stepping up. I'm looking forward to seeing the positive changes you'll bring." Emily shook his hand firmly, a new sense of purpose in her eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'm looking forward to making a real difference." As Emily left the conference room, Nathaniel felt a renewed sense of optimism. The events of the past few days had been challenging, but they had sparked necessary change. He knew there was more work ahead, more stores to visit, more managers to meet, but today was a step in the right direction. Nathaniel returned to his office, gazing out over the city once more. He thought about the people who walked through his store's doors every day, each with their own stories, hopes, and dreams. He had built his brand on the belief that everyone deserved dignity, no matter who they were, and today he had taken action to uphold that belief. As the sun set over the skyline, Nathaniel felt a quiet sense of pride. He wasn't just a businessman, he was a leader with a responsibility to make a positive impact. With people like Emily in place, he knew his stores would thrive, not just as places of luxury but as places where everyone felt welcome. The day after Edward's termination, Nathaniel wasted no time implementing changes at the store. He arranged a meeting with the staff to discuss the new direction and reassure them that, despite the sudden change in management, their jobs were secure and valued. He knew stability and clear communication were key to transitioning the store into a place that reflected the brand's values of inclusivity and respect. The meeting was held in a private conference room at the company's headquarters, a smaller but equally elegant space compared to where Nathaniel had confronted Edward. The staff filed in, their faces showing a mix of curiosity and concern. Emily Harper stood at the front with Nathaniel, a clipboard in her hand, looking more confident than the day before. Nathaniel stood, addressing the room. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice calm and reassuring. "I know the past few days have been challenging, and I want to be transparent about what's happening. Edward Marshall is no longer with the company. His departure was necessary to realign our store's operations with the values we stand for as a brand." A murmur rippled through the room. Nathaniel could see the questions in their eyes, the uncertainty about what this meant for them and their future at the store. He continued, maintaining eye contact with as many as possible. "I want to make it clear that your positions are not in jeopardy. We value each of you and the work you do. However, we will be making changes to ensure our store provides a welcoming environment for all customers, regardless of who they are or how they look. This isn't just about making sales, it's about building relationships and treating every person who walks through our doors with respect. Emily stepped forward, her voice steady as the new interim manager. I'll be leading our team in these efforts. We're going to focus on customer service training, and I'll be working closely with each of you to ensure we all understand what's expected. This isn't about pointing fingers, it's about growing together and improving how we interact with our customers. One of the sales associates, a young man named Michael Evans, raised his hand. What exactly does this training involve? He asked. And how long will it last? Nathaniel nodded at Emily, who responded, the training will cover everything from greeting customers to handling sensitive situations. It will include workshops on cultural awareness and inclusivity. The goal is to ensure everyone feels empowered to provide the best possible service. We'll start with short sessions over the next few weeks, with ongoing training throughout the year. Michael Evans nodded, seeming satisfied with the explanation. Another employee, an older woman named Rachel, spoke up. What happens if we see behavior that doesn't align with these values? Do we report it directly to you, Emily? Nathaniel interjected, yes, you can report any concerns to Emily, and you can also come directly to me. My door is always open. We take these issues seriously, and I want everyone to feel safe and supported in speaking up. We're building a culture of accountability and respect, and that starts with all of us. The staff nodded, and Nathaniel sensed a shift in the room. The tension was easing, replaced by cautious optimism. They weren't just hearing about changes, they were being involved in them, which was crucial to building trust. Are there any other questions? Nathaniel asked, looking around the room. A young woman named Sophie Reed, who worked as a cashier, raised her hand. What if customers come in with the same attitude Edward had? How do we handle difficult situations where customers are being rude or discriminatory? Emily answered, that's a great question, Sophie Reed. Part of our training will include conflict resolution and de-escalation techniques. If you ever feel uncomfortable or if a customer is behaving inappropriately, don't hesitate to call on a manager. We want you to feel empowered to handle situations professionally, but we're also here to support you. Nathaniel nodded in agreement. Remember, you're not alone in this. We're a team, and we'll work together to ensure everyone feels respected, both staff and customers alike. The staff seemed to relax further, reassured by the clear plan and support offered. Nathaniel felt a sense of relief himself. He knew these changes wouldn't solve every problem overnight, but they were a start. The store needed to be a place where everyone felt welcome and valued, and that required commitment from everyone involved. Thank you all for your time, Nathaniel said, wrapping up the meeting. I'm confident in each of you, and I believe we can make this store a model of what our brand stands for. Let's work together to make that happen. The staff began to file out, some stopping to ask Emily quick questions, others heading back to their duties with a renewed sense of purpose. Nathaniel watched them go, feeling hopeful. He had made the right decision in promoting Emily. She was already showing leadership qualities that Edward had lacked, and her connection with the staff was evident. As the room emptied, Nathaniel turned to Emily. You did well today, he said. The staff respects you, and they're looking to you for guidance. Keep that momentum going. Emily smiled, looking both relieved and determined. Thank you, Mr. Carter. I won't let you down. I believe we can make a real difference here. Nathaniel nodded. I know you will. I'll be checking in regularly, but I trust you to handle things. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Emily agreed, and Nathaniel left the conference room, his mind already turning to the next steps. There were other stores to visit, other managers to meet. The issue with Edward had been a wake-up call, a reminder that even the best intentions could be undermined by prejudice and poor leadership. As Nathaniel walked through the halls of his headquarters, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The confrontation with Edward had been difficult but necessary. Justice wasn't just about addressing wrongdoing, it was about creating an environment where such behavior wasn't tolerated. Nathaniel was committed to building a company where respect, inclusivity, and integrity were more than words in a mission statement. They were principles guiding every decision, action, and interaction. He knew challenges lay ahead, but with leaders like Emily in place, he was confident they could make a lasting impact. The store was already showing signs of change. The atmosphere felt lighter, the staff more engaged and welcoming. Nathaniel's decision to appoint Emily as interim manager had been wise. She had organized the training sessions efficiently, and the team responded positively, eager to create a more inclusive and respectful environment. Nathaniel had kept his promise to check in regularly. Today, he decided to make an unannounced visit to see how things were progressing. As he entered the store, the familiar chime above the door sounded. He was immediately greeted by Michael Evans, the sales associate who had raised concerns during the staff meeting. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," Michael Evans said, smiling warmly. "It's great to see you." "Good morning, Michael Evans," Nathaniel replied, shaking his hand. "How's everything going?" Michael Evans nodded enthusiastically. "Really well, actually. The training sessions have been helpful, and Emily has been doing a great job. The whole team feels more connected, and we're all on the same page about how we want to treat our customers." Nathaniel smiled. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Keep up the good work. I'm proud of how you all have handled this transition." As Nathaniel moved further into the store, he noticed customers being greeted warmly, staff assisting without hesitation, and a general air of positivity. It was a stark contrast to the atmosphere he had encountered during his first visit under Edward's management. He felt a sense of satisfaction seeing his vision being realized. Nathaniel made his way to the rear of the boutique, where Emily was conversing with a customer. She glanced up, spotted Nathaniel, and excused herself. "Mr. Carter, it's wonderful to see you," Emily said, her expression radiant. "You too, Emily," Nathaniel replied. "I just wanted to drop by and check on progress. It looks like you've done an outstanding job." Emily's face glowed with pride. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. The team has been incredible. They've fully embraced the changes, and we're receiving positive feedback from customers. I think we're on the right path." Nathaniel nodded. "I agree. You've turned things around quickly, and I'm extremely pleased with the progress. I'll continue to support you in every way possible." Their conversation was interrupted by the loud chime of the door. Nathaniel turned to see Edward Marshall standing at the entrance. Edward's suit was less polished than usual, his face worn with concern. His eyes scanned the store, landing on Nathaniel and Emily. Nathaniel's expression hardened slightly. He hadn't anticipated seeing Edward here, especially after their last encounter. Edward approached them, his steps slower, his posture less assured. Mr. Carter, Edward began, his voice almost pleading, I know I'm likely the last person you want to see, but I need to speak with you. Please, give me a moment. Nathaniel's face remained impassive. He glanced at Emily, who looked surprised but stayed silent, then back at Edward. All right, Edward, Nathaniel said coolly. You have a moment. What do you want to say? Edward took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping. I came to apologize, he said. I know I was wrong. I've had time to reflect on my actions, and I realize I made a terrible mistake. I judged people unfairly, letting my biases interfere with my job. I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, truly. Nathaniel listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. Edward's eyes were pleading, his voice thick with desperation. I've been with the company for years, Edward continued. I care about the brand, about the store. Please give me another chance. Let me prove I can change, that I can manage the store the way you want. I'll do anything. Nathaniel was silent for a moment, letting Edward's words linger. He thought about the numerous times Edward had likely dismissed customers based on their appearance, the way he had treated Nathaniel himself. Edward's sudden change of heart seemed driven more by desperation than genuine remorse. I appreciate your apology, Edward, Nathaniel said finally, his voice calm but firm, but this isn't just about one mistake. It's about a pattern of behavior, a mindset you've shown for years. What I saw in the store wasn't just an oversight, it was the result of a deep-rooted attitude that doesn't align with our values. Edward's face fell, his eyes filling with frustration and despair. Mr. Carter, please, he begged, I can learn. I can change. Just give me the store back, and I'll prove it to you. Nathaniel shook his head slowly. The decision has been made, Edward. The store is thriving under Emily's leadership, and the staff has responded positively to the changes. I can't go back to how things were. My responsibility is to the company and every customer who walks through those doors. Allowing you to return would undermine everything we've worked to achieve. Edward's shoulders slumped, his last hope fading. He looked at Nathaniel, desperation turning to resignation. I understand, he said quietly, almost to himself. Nathaniel's voice softened slightly. Edward, I hope you take this as an opportunity to reflect and grow. This isn't about punishment, it's about ensuring the right people are in place to uphold the brand's values. I wish you the best in your future endeavors, but you won't be getting this store back. Edward nodded, his eyes downcast. Thank you for your time, Mr. Carter, he said softly. Without another word, he turned and walked out, his footsteps heavy. Nathaniel watched him go, feeling a mix of pity and resolve. Edward's apology had come too late, the damage was done, and Nathaniel couldn't risk the brand's integrity for the sake of giving Edward another chance. His responsibility was to his company, employees, and customers. Emily stood quietly beside Nathaniel, her expression one of relief. Thank you for not letting him come back, she said softly. I think the staff would have been worried if he did. Nathaniel nodded. I made my decision based on what's best for the store and the people who work here. You've done an excellent job, Emily. Keep up the great work. We're building something special, and I'm confident in your ability to lead. Emily smiled, a sense of accomplishment shining in her eyes. Thank you, Mr. Carter. I won't let you down. Nathaniel looked around the store, observing the staff interacting with customers, each engagement positive and welcoming. The change was tangible and impactful. Nathaniel felt a sense of pride and satisfaction. He knew challenges lay ahead, but with strong leadership and a commitment to the company's values, those challenges could be met. As he left the store, Nathaniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was what he had worked for, to create a brand that stood not just for luxury but for respect, integrity, and inclusion. With the right people in place, he was confident that vision would continue to thrive.